I will be doing stand-up comedy on October 19th. I will be at the Glendale Room. All my dates at on my Instagram, at Jessie Zand. For the ticket links, they are in my link tree. We have such a freaking special guest here today. This woman means the absolute world to me. Stand-up comedy is not an easy thing to venture into, and I am so absolutely blessed to have met this gem of a person along the way. We have Kristin Chirico in the studio.
Thank you. Is this a bad time to tell you my last name is pronounced Chirico?
Yes. Excuse me, let's run this back. Kristin Chirico in the studio.
Yay!
Me botching your name for the last year and a half, and this is when you choose to tell me.
That's so, I didn't know that you didn't know how to pronounce my last name. That's so funny. That's really fun. I did not know that.
The humiliation running through me right now is palpable.
Here's the thing, you've never like had to pronounce my last name. Like, when have you ever had to say it out loud?
We've definitely like introduced each other, and I've definitely done it in front of you before.
I think I just was like, well, whatever. Just gonna let it ride.
You'll get to it later.
We'll wait till we're filming and on camera.
We'll wait till we're doing like the high stakes thing, and then it'll be like a payoff.
It'll be a tense moment that we can have in the future.
Precious moments.
Oh my God, I love you so much.
That's
So
cute.
you've seen her on Buzzfeed. I'm so excited to have you in the studio. You have just been such an inspiration to me. You know, we met through stand-up comedy, but you know, preparing for this interview and learning more about your story, it's been so eye-opening, and I just have so many questions. And so I just want to first kick it off. What was your first impression of me? And then I'm gonna tell you my first impression of you.
Oh, my first impression of you. Oh my God, you're gonna laugh at me. So my first impression of you was that you were very cool, but that you needed to take off your hat because I couldn't see your face when you were performing.
That's so funny.
You're wearing a hat, and I could tell you were kind of like hiding behind it, and I was just like, but you're so beautiful. Like, why would it seemed like you were like nervous, and I was just like, but you're so cool. You look so effortlessly cool.
Oh,
That's so funny because like I felt the same way about you. I was like, you are so wholly yourself, and I love that about you. Like, you know exactly who you are, and it's so inspiring to me. Watching you do stand-up and seeing your act, and I just was so enamored and inspired by you because you talked about things in your life and in your personal life that are often like considered, you know, colloquially taboo topics, if you will. But you took it on with such gusto and bravery that it just inspired the shit out of me. You are the effortlessly cool one to me. I consider you my fairy godmother in comedy.
Thank you. That's so sweet. That's really nice of you to say. I think, like, honestly, I would say I've gotten a lot of practice talking about myself, and so like it wasn't that hard to like make the transition to do it with jokes, you know?
Yeah.
It was easy.
Tell me your story. Like where are you from? Like, let's start from childhood.
Oh my God, from childhood?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Here's the thing. I was born in a suburb of Chicago called Indian Head Park.
Mic drop.
okay. Interesting choice of name.
Yeah.
Yep. I never really questioned why it was called that until much later in my life. Like, very weird. And I looked on their website. They don't explain it either. So
Wonder why.
Weird why they do that.
they're just like, it's the tradition. And I was just like, okay, but like lots of things are traditional. And then I moved around a lot as a kid. And then I ended up back in the suburbs of Chicago when I was 15. So I moved in the middle of high school, which
same here.
like so
sucks.
bad. So bad.
If I could give one piece of parenting advice, do not move your children in the middle of high school if you can at all help it.
Agreed.
Like, it is not worth that extra bedroom on your house. It just isn't. I promise you. So, and then I was a competitive speaker. Like, I did
that tracks.
speech team. And I went to college on a scholarship for it. And speech is individual. It's called individual events versus debate, which is like you debate someone, but individually you compete against a bunch of people. So
That's fun.
Is that where you got the stand-up bug?
Or performance, maybe.
probably. I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of always was acting, like, as a kid. Like, I was in plays, like, my whole life. When I was 8, I was voted class pig, and I was, like, honestly very proud of it. I was just like, of all the piggies here, I'm the piggiest of all. I had no shame from a very young age, and I think that, like, has helped me a lot.
Definitely. Because I think that a lot of people get wrapped up in that when they're like teenagers, young adults. They get this like shame, self-consciousness, and I think that holds so many people back,
Yeah,
especially in the performance space.
I think, like, I never went through a period where I was, like, a popular or, like, an attractive or, like, a person who could date people easily. So like I kind of was just like, I'm just gonna lean all the way into this because it's just like I'm already falling backwards into this. So like, I might as well help myself out. So I went to college on a speech team scholarship. And then my freshman year, for a variety of reasons I won't get into because they're kind of dark, I burned out like very badly, like very quickly.
Wow.
So I basically ran away from home. I transferred to a school in London, and then I finished my degree there.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, it was super interesting because it was an international university that was populated with like basically expat Americans and expat Arab kids.
Funny.
During like the height of the Iraq War.
Okay.
Like this is like 2003, 2004. I think that very much informed, I think, a lot of my politics.
Absolutely.
That's
How
kind
could
of
it
great
not?
though that you
Yeah.
had that perspective, whereas like we were getting mind poisoned out here in the United States.
Yes. And I remember the first time I went to like a war protest when I was like 20 years old. Like some reporter snapped a picture of me and like someone saw it basically. And I think like my aunt was just like, you'll never be able to run for political office.
Oh no.
And I remember the time thinking like, oh yeah, I guess not. And now it's like, man, I don't think you can run for political office if you don't have that photo.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
That's very true.
And then after that, I came home for a year, and I worked at Medieval Times.
Stop.
I was
Amazing.
I have like 5 memoirs. I worked at Medieval Times, and then I was like, okay, my life isn't going anywhere. I need to figure this out. So then I applied.
Wait, Medieval Times wasn't the pipeline to success.
Listen, here's the thing about Medieval Times: either you work there for 3 seconds, or you work there for your entire life. Like, it's serious. And that's the thing is that, like, there were, like, these older women who were just like, don't get sucked into the pipeline. Like, you'll die here. Like, it very much is, like, people were,
Like an old witch who's been working there for...
Yes. People were, like, meeting their spouses there. And,
Oh my
like,
God.
and, like, there were, like, parents and children who were, it's seriously, people just, like, get sucked in and then they just never get let go. So.
It's like Scientology.
It is. It's like
So you got out.
So I got out. Yeah, I got out. Well, okay. What happened was I was having like a very torrid affair with someone who used to work there, who was still friends with everyone, and then like that ended badly, and I was like, well, I can't just not hook up with you anymore. I have to quit the job. So
Fair. Everybody's been there, honey.
I had to quit the job. So I quit the job. I applied to grad school, and I got into grad school at Northwestern.
Wow.
So
Slay.
Yeah.
Slay.
So then I went to grad school at Northwestern for 2 years. I graduated and I moved out here in 2008. And I basically just like kind of flailed for like a while. Like I was out here and I was like tutoring and like I worked for a screenwriter. You know Jennifer Jason Leigh?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I worked for her mom as an assistant for 2 years. Her mom, well, she's dead now, but she was a screenwriter. She was like in her 80s. Well, here's the thing. She, on her obituary, is like, she died at 78. And I was like, I saw her driver's license. She was not 78. I was like, I remember reading that and being like,
Wait, I love that she was committed to lying about her age
for
till the
that
end.
long. I was just like, you were not 70. I'm like, I booked flights for you. You were not 70.
My grandma lied about her age because she was older than her husband, so she would always lie.
That's so funny.
Love that.
So on brand for your family.
Listen, it's branding.
Yeah.
Izzy's brand is that she lies.
Yeah.
I mean, that means your brand can be
I'm
anything.
an actor.
She's an actress.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I guess it's every actor's brand.
Yeah,
It's like, I'm a really good liar.
Yeah.
For money.
I love when actors say they aren't like, I'm a terrible liar, but I can, I just do it on the stage. Shut the fuck up.
I'm terrible.
Shut the fuck up. We know you can lie, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like-
We know you have a gift for it, actually.
Okay, so
So then
Jennifer Jason Leigh's mother.
Yeah, so then I worked for her until like 2012.
Okay.
And then that job ended. I was 29 years old and I was just like, my life is not going anywhere. And then you remember Gawker? You know Gawker, right?
Of course. Oh, yeah.
In 2013, Gawker tried to reboot Defamer, their Hollywood blog, and they just took like open submissions for it. And I was like, I can be a snarky bitch. So I wrote something and I sent it off. And then like 20 minutes later, I got an interview request. And I was just like, oh, okay. And then I told my friend about it who worked at Buzzfeed. And she was like, no, don't work for fucking Gawker. Come work for us. I got hired as a staff writer, and then I was a staff writer exclusively for about a year.
What was your beats?
So I was on something called Buzz Team.
Okay.
And Buzz Team makes like the things you think of as classic BuzzFeed posts.
Got it.
Like quizzes, lists.
Which Pride and Prejudice character are you?
Basically,
Stuff
yes.
like that.
Exactly. Okay. So that was
Do you remember any of the ones that you wrote?
Oh yeah. I wrote like, which Jennifer Lawrence are you? I wrote like
I took these quizzes,
Yeah.
just so you know.
Yeah,
Like,
I wrote like which
you told me who I was.
I did. I wrote like which Disney couple are you and your husband or whatever. The thing is, it's like a machine. Like you just churn stuff out.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
We had to write like at minimum like 5 posts a week, if not more. So like that's like a post a day, which like is hard.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot. And then the thing that changed my life I would say probably more than any other thing, is I was in an article. It was like women of various sizes try one size fits all clothing. And I basically like wrote like I did that. I was in it and like I wrote like some funny blurbs about it and like it blew up.
Was there still like comedy in it? Do you think that's why it probably?
I would write like funny posts about fashion. Like so like I did like a bunch of those and then I started doing video adaptations of those posts. And those started doing well. And then in the fall of 2015, so BuzzFeed was trying to put together a lady version of the Try Guys. And they weren't saying that, but like that's basically what they were trying to do. And they basically asked if I could do videos for it. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do that.
How big was the team?
There were 5 people on Ladylike and 1 producer who was just a producer. Got it. Yeah, that was kind of basically our team. It was hard because we were expected to produce 2 videos a week.
Jesus.
And we were in them and we were producing them. So like we were always in pre-pro, always supervising an edit, always shooting something, always produce. Like it was,
So like Lady Gaga meme where she's like, club, another club, no sleep, no rest, whatever.
It was a lot. And like there would be weeks where it's just like, what the fuck are we gonna make? And it was just like, anyone got any fucking terrible stories from their childhood? Like, like
this sounds so much like this podcast.
I know. I was about to say, like, we're following this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're on the road to success.
I mean, we got to do amazing things.
Yeah.
It was also exhausting.
I'm sure.
It was also exhausting. Also, like, we didn't necessarily have the time to, like, sit down and think about, like, hey, do we even want this online? Because, like, sometimes there wasn't time.
Yeah, and you're just in a different mindset. You're
like, there are some times where I would see a video and I have, like, the clarity of mind to be like, no. But a lot of the times we would do videos where I was just, in retrospect, it's like, why did I do that? Like, we just needed a video. And it was like, all right, well, I guess... You know, there are a few videos where I'm like, I wish I hadn't been in that one.
Izzy and I sat down and we watched your Why I Left BuzzFeed video. You mentioned your whole body being given up to BuzzFeed, from getting a bikini wax to discussing intimate facts about yourself. Like, what would be the one piece of advice you would give us as young content creators as we start on this journey?
You have to, I know it sounds like a lot. You have to think a few steps ahead on everything that you post. You have to think about, like, how is this going to impact my future employment? How is this going to impact my future romantic relationships? How is this going to impact my family? And so like you have to think, but here's the thing. There are lots of things that don't impact any of those things.
It's true.
Like there are tons of things. It's so funny that people are like, you talk about your whole life. And I was like, I actually don't.
Yeah, it's about tricking people that you're being completely open. No, but it's true. That's what being open enough that people think they're getting so much about you.
Yes.
When you're really just like concealing most of it.
Probably. Well, to be fair, I do talk about a majority of my life. There are a few very select things that I do not mention at all. Like, will not even make passing references to. As like a rule for myself, because I know that like it's dangerous. You have to understand like what is the impact of what you talk about, because like I used to do this thing on Twitter where I would just talk about like basically any old fucking thought that came into my head, and like they weren't like bad thoughts or like or untrue thoughts, but like it would just cause a headache because like whoever they were about would be like, we're gonna fight now, and I'd be like, well, that sounds like a waste of my time because I'm not thinking about this anymore because I've already gotten the thought out. So it's like you kind of just have to think about like what does your footprint look like, and you also have to understand that like sometimes that means looking at things that you're talking about and like saying like, am I filling a void? Am I talking about something that other people don't talk about or that people need to hear about? Because like sometimes there are things where you think like, oh, no one talks about it because it's too personal. And it's like maybe no one talks about it because no one's been brave to talk about it yet. And like it will be normalized in like 5 years.
Yeah.
A moment that stuck out to Izzy that I definitely wanted to bring up was, what was VidCon like?
Oh yeah, no, I need to hear.
We want to hear everything.
Okay,
were people banging it out? Was there drama? Who was starting the drama?
So I'm just going to start this off by saying this. Jen and I have like an inside joke that we have where we'll sometimes say to each other, like, I'm going to VidCon 2018 myself. And what it means, it's shorthand for I'm going to. And it's because at VidCon 2018, I definitely got very drunk and like kind of sort of like, I guess trigger warning for this. I definitely was like, I'm going to at this fucking conference. I did. I just went to bed. But like...
Yeah, I didn't hear about you at VidCon, so I'm glad you didn't do that.
So VidCon, but like we do joke about it because I definitely had like a night where I was just like,
You were,
I don't want to be alive anymore.
but you vocalized that, which is an important part of
Yeah.
it being in that headspace.
Yeah.
Is like,
Whenever something frustrating happens, Jen and I will be like, I'm going to VidCon 2018 myself.
that's so funny.
But
Was VidCon that bad that year?
the thing about VidCon is that it's mostly just like a really, you love
right.
drinking and people and networking. It's super fun. If you don't like those three things, do not go to VidCon. It is not for you. It's weird because like it was the first time I ever went to a conference where I was like, I was genuinely a celebrity. Like not even like a, you know, if people take pictures of you on the street, whatever, but like an actual, like, I would walk out of the hotel that all the creators were in, and there would be kids like on the fucking, like outside the perimeter, like trying to get
One
pictures.
Direction.
Yeah.
Yes, like trying to, kids would be like staked out, being like, who's getting in the SUV? They would call our names and like take pictures and like shout out. It was crazy.
What did that feel like? Did
It
that
was
feel
so,
good?
I was just like, oh my God, I'm in a boy band. Yeah, it's weird. It's surreal.
It's really weird.
I'm sure.
It's definitely like probably the only, well, that and the Streamies, like the only times I've ever like experienced what it's like to be like an actual celebrity.
What was the Streamies like?
Oh my God, the Streamies are so weird. The year I went to the year we were nominated for a Streamy, the Village people performed.
What?
Did they perform YMCA?
They sure did. They performed YMCA. That's how they closed the show. The year like Poppy came and she was like on a leash, or she had people on a leash. It's like, what if the Grammys had less self-awareness, I think.
That moment of celebrity. Is there an element of you that feels like you're grateful that this happened at the age that it did because it could have stunted you if it was any younger?
Yes.
'Cause that's a very
Yes.
jarring experience.
There are some times where I'm like, oh, I wish I had more time. But like, I'm so grateful that I did not become famous until the age that I became famous, because it means that I was kind of allowed to be a dipshit in my 20s.
Totally. And you got that real
I was
20s
allowed
experience.
to be, I mean, not that I was like a super dipshit, but I was allowed to be like
Messy.
I was allowed to be messy in my 20s.
And just live your life without fearing that like everyone's watching you at every point. Which is, I think, what kind of happens when you become famous, is that everything you do is a little more monitored, or a lot more.
And like, I'm not even that famous. Like, I'm like kind of famous. So it's like that, I can't even imagine what it's like if you're like actually very famous. Like, people say like crazy things to me in my DMs. Like, people
Parasocial.
They talk to me.
Parasocially.
Yeah, they talk to me like, it's like, you don't know me. Like, do not speak to me this way. Like, do not, what is wrong with you? Like, but sometimes it won't even be like in a negative way. Sometimes it'll just be like, someone will write like long things that are just like, hey, I really need advice on like how to dress myself. Can you like give me like a list of stores and like tell me like what like the best things to wear for like this body shape? And I was
they think you're friends because they've watched hours of your content, and you are so like friendly that they start this in their head. It's this whole phenomenon that I think, you know, honestly, like YouTube and like social media where you feel more connected to people, I think has started it. I watched this girl on YouTube. She was a beauty YouTuber. And then I became friends with her, and I never told her that I watched her. So it was so weird because I was like, this is so weird. Like, I know things about her life and I can't say anything.
That's the thing.
It's weird.
Jen talks about that because when she dates on the apps, she's always just like, I really hope I don't match with anyone who knows who I am, because it's like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Hey, vintage lovers, if you're looking for one-of-a-kind, curated designer pieces that scream style and sophistication, then look no further than Funny Girl Vintage. I am in head-to-toe Funny Girl Vintage today, FYI. It is your go-to destination for curated, high-quality designer vintage finds that'll have you looking and feeling fabulous. At Funny Girl Vintage, they don't just find great pieces, they curate them with an eye for detail and a passion for unique designer finds. From iconic designer labels to timeless classics, their collection is like a treasure trove of vintage glam. Check out their website, funnygirlvintage.com, or visit their showroom on Melrose for one-on-one style consultation. And guess what?
What is it?
As a special treat for our podcast listeners, you can get 10% off when you use the code NIGHT. That's right, use code NIGHT, N-I-G-H-T, barely knew how to spell that, for a 10% discount, and enjoy a sickening discount on your first purchase. And we thank Funny Girl Vintage for sponsoring this episode.
Thank you, funny girl.
On Ladylike, January 2018, we took a trip to Kenya. We did a video where we took a road trip through Kenya.
Whoa.
Yes, which was our first travel video ever, which, like, do not have that be your first travel video. But, like, I mean, beautiful. Like, one of the most unforgettable experiences of my life. Highest highs, lowest lows. Like definitely,
Really?
I remember pre-proing a segment in the backseat of a car that was driving through the bush with no suspension and looking and seeing Mount Kilimanjaro in the distance and vaguely being like, is this entire video we're making transphobic? And being like, you know what? I don't have time to think that.
Mount Kilimanjaro really put it in perspective.
I remember just kind of staring at the window and being like, you know what? I gotta just get through this.
Yeah.
I'm
in Kenya. I just gotta get through this.
So dusty.
Yeah.
The reason why I talk about that trip is that was the trip that like Jen Ruggiero, who is my business partner, who I make videos with now.
Shout out Jordan.
Yeah, to Jordan. That was the trip where we kind of like became like best friends. And like that was sort of like basically she was going through a breakup, and yeah, so like we became like after that we were kind of like glued at the hip basically forever. Like so
and you guys' relationship too is so special. You feel the chemistry when watching you guys. It seems very easy.
Yeah. Yes, it is very
Effortless.
easy because we are genuinely best friends. I
Beautiful.
think that makes a huge difference. Never start a business with someone that you wouldn't like bail out of jail, I think.
Amen.
Because if you don't want to bail them out of jail, you're not going to want to bail them out of like whatever business problems you get yourself into.
That's a
True.
great piece of advice. No, that's a great
great
piece of advice.
Because you will get into business problems.
You briefly touched on this, that you're writing a memoir, and I know you've been really open about it on social media. Like, you know, the story as a reconnecting Native. Like, explain a little bit more about what that means, and then I want to hear a little bit more about your story.
Sure. I mean, so I'm a reconnecting Native, and in case you don't know what that means, it's a reconnecting Native is someone who didn't grow up with their Native American culture because of the atrocities, and has chosen to like reconnect with that culture as an adult. That is not the same thing as a pretendian. A pretendian is someone who pretends to be Native American because they like attention and turquoise.
So crazy. They're probably wearing fake turquoise too.
Yeah.
Just so they know.
Basically, the log line for my memoir is like uncovering like a childhood family mystery leads me to reconnecting like with my culture and confronting those responsible for the trauma, basically.
Wow.
The short of it is my mom was adopted, but the story about her adoption was always very weird. She was adopted as like a 6-year-old. And like to cut like a very long story short, she basically was stolen from her home.
God.
Yeah, her siblings ended up in much worse circumstances than she did. She got very lucky. It has, I mean, I would say like that has honestly her trauma has shaped my life in every possible way, which is sometimes difficult to talk about because I don't think she sees it that way. But like it has. And so, you know, as an adult, it kind of like for a long time, like we didn't have the internet. We didn't have the ability to like research, like where did we come from for like a long time. I didn't even know like how to begin. Like
how do you begin?
Yeah. Because the thing is you can't tell people I'm Native American because people will be like, okay, like that kind of sounds like you have curly hair and like you're white. Like, what does that mean? So like it's, there was kind of like no path for me to like figure this out. So it kind of just became like a rock that like sat in like in my heart for like a really long time. And then there was a Ladylike video where we did like 23andMe DNA tests. And I was just like, I remember Jen produced this video. And I remember before the video, I said to her like, look, I think this is what's going to pop up in mine. If it doesn't, let's just not include my pre-interview talking about it. Because I don't want to be embarrassed. But I think this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And she said, okay, well, so we'll deal with it when we deal with it. And then it was like, yeah, surprise, you are Native. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I knew, but I couldn't, like, the thing that I say to people is that, like, DNA tests do not prove Indigenousness. They do not denote Indigenousness. They don't tell you, like, what people you belong to or your history or your family or anything like that. But I think the thing that I kind of stress, I guess, in my memoir is that, like, when you grow up with basically no information about where you came from, anything feels like a lifeline.
Absolutely.
Anything feels like a life raft. It feels like something to cling to in a sea of just nothing.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And that's the thing that I kind of tell people because like Native people do not like DNA tests for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
One, because people tend to like get them and they'll be like 1% Native and they'll be like, guess what? And it's like, no, it's not like blood quantum does not matter But like that's not like what we're talking about when we say that.
No.
The thing about like DNA tests also is that like your percentages can change depending on how the science shakes out.
Right.
Like my percentages on like the test from the video we did like 7 years ago are not the same as they were like even 2 years later.
Wow.
So like
as the sample size grows,
it gets more precise.
Yeah.
Oh.
When I did it as well, I had very small indications of other parts of the Middle East in my data. And then now, 4 years later, it is now completely 50-50.
Yeah.
English, Persian. So then how does one accurately find out that they are Native? Like, what does that process look like?
Okay, so here's the thing, because lots of people ask me this question. I think you kind of have to like ask yourself, is there like are you missing like tons of family members? Like tons of family members? And you don't know where they are? And the only information you have is that they are Native? Yeah, I think that's worth looking into.
Yeah.
If you know where all your people are, if you're like not missing tons of family members, and you don't like no one thinks that you're Native, you are almost certainly not Native.
Yeah.
Like it's not just like people sometimes are like, oh, you discovered this, and it's like, no, like it was like this. It was two pieces of information I had that were not connected by any sort of like paperwork whatsoever.
Right.
That were just sort of like
Nebulous.
Yeah. And it's just like, because, when I was a kid, I was comfortable talking about it. And then I got older and I was like, I can't prove this. I don't want to be that guy. But if I'm being like really honest about it, and I don't think I was honest about it for a long time, I knew. I like knew in my heart. I knew in my heart, but I couldn't prove it. And you can't say like, I knew in my heart. I didn't.
No, you didn't have solid proof.
I didn't have solid proof. And like reconnecting is about who are you reconnecting to? What are you repairing? What are you fixing? For me, it was like I had tons of missing family members. Like people were like, I didn't know where they were, who they were, or that they even existed, or like. So like that was kind of the first thing, but honestly a lot of time elapsed between that DNA test and that because I didn't know like what to do. It wasn't until I kind of started like talking to like Native people and they were just like the first thing you have to do is figure out if you're actually Native.
Yeah.
And if you are, it probably won't be that hard. Because you're not a Black Native. Black Natives have like a much more difficult issue because of like purging roles and stuff like that. White Natives, it's usually, not always, but usually a little easier because Native people are tracked very well. Like if you know the names of your relatives or you know the name of one relative, you can usually like you can go back and look at the roles and stuff.
Got it.
So like they did like separate censuses of Native people, and that's exactly what happened. Was I knew my great grandmother and my grandfather's name, and like it took a day.
Wow.
It took a day of research.
You're joking.
Once we started looking, it took a day of research. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because if you, in most cases, if you are Native, it's not that difficult to find out.
Yeah.
Like,
What did that feel
Well, there's
like?
not that many Native people.
No.
I mean,
What did that feel like after having this like pit in your stomach or in your heart, knowing that there was this thing missing and all it took was just a day to figure it out?
It was frustrating and also it was exciting but also frustrating. And I think like this is me getting in the weeds on like Native drama, but like I think there are reconnected Natives who are just like, if you can't connect all your family members, what are you even doing here? And it's like, I think the thing that I would keep in mind is that finding these people wasn't necessarily even possible like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like we exist in a time where we have so much information where it's just much easier to like find stuff.
Totally.
Like, when I found my cousins, I found out that like my aunt had died like a year before I first talked to my cousins. And my uncle had died, I think, like 6 months before I first talked to my cousins.
Wow.
I literally missed them by like basically a year.
That's hard.
And, I was like 37 at the time, 36, 37. I found out that like my grandfather had died when I was like 7.
Yeah.
Or 8, 7 or 8. Yeah, I mean, like, and my cousin who's older than me, like, she knew him. Like she had relationships with these people.
Yeah.
And like I didn't get to. So it's like I think I'm mindful of the fact that like for people who are older, it's going to be a little harder to reconnect to specific people because a lot of those people are going to be dead.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that you aren't allowed to like reconnect to your culture just because like time has not allowed you to do it sooner. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the main thing is that like you have to figure out who your family is. Cause like those are when Native people talk to each other, like that's like the questions they ask each other first are what's your tribe? Who are your family names?
Yeah.
And it's not like a test. That's how we connect with each other. It's how we find like we want to know if we're related to each other.
Right. Yeah.
We want to know like, do we have family in common? Cause like if I went back to Seneca land last like in July. And the one thing I learned is that like, damn, I'm probably like at least 5th or 6th cousins with everyone here.
That's so cool.
Yeah, because it was just like you have this last name. It's like that's in my family tree. Yeah. It was like, oh yeah, like I have a nephew, I have a red eye, I have a Jimerson, I have a Silverheels. Like I have like all these people in my family tree. Like yeah, like we're probably related. So like that's and you can't reconnect if you don't know like where you fit in that story. Right. But like the other thing is like you kind of have to approach it with like a large degree of humility, and it's that can be hard. For a few reasons, because you will have these feelings like, well, this was taken from me. Why do I have to act like this is a privilege for me to
Why do I have to
this?
tiptoe around it?
Why do I have to tiptoe around it? And I think like the answer to that is like, you are entitled to it, but you are not entitled to like bulldoze towards it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're not entitled necessarily to the community welcoming you if you're not conscious of your role in it and your place.
Exactly. Because everyone has to be a conscious community member. Everyone has to be like, and that's like the thing about Native communities that like they're about like the collective and thinking about the collective in the future and like how does this impact all of us? And like you have to be like really mindful of that and really patient and like mindful of the fact that like not everyone is going to be jazzed to see you back. Like not everyone is going to be like one thing I learned is that like people did not like my great grandmother. Like
OT.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because like she left. My grandfather was born on Cattaraugus Reservation in 1918 and they left in the 20s, I want to say, the 20s or the 30s. In the 20s. And they didn't like because she left and like was like goodbye. Like she skedaddled out of town. And,
So she was seen as someone who kind of left her culture, abandoned her.
Yes.
Yep.
This is such a part, you joke about it in your act, that it's like part of your personality. But I do feel like bringing to light this story that you have is so important in the way that you've approached it with this level of mindfulness and consciousness, while also drawing attention to the atrocities, really. Having this culture and these people being stolen from their land or having to leave for economic reasons and lack of opportunity.
And they're still being mistreated.
And of course, I mean, it's not
deeply.
It's not over. But it's something that has just so resonated deeply with me, and as an artist and seeing you put out art about it has really inspired me. And I can't wait to read your book, and I can't wait to see all that you do with your story because it's so powerful. I'm going to get emotional. It's so powerful, and I'm just never ending inspired by you. Truly.
That's so, oh my God, Truly. Look how, you're so sweet.
Truly.
Listen, I try so fucking hard, and I don't think I get it right all the time, and I know that, like, part of this.
But it's so brave to even try.
Yeah.
So many people don't even try because they're scared, and that's what I am so impressed by you because there is a level of fearlessness and courage about your work that, not everybody has the balls to do, and it's important that people are doing this work.
You know what's crazy is that I don't think I'm that brave.
I know you don't think that about yourself, which is so fucking crazy to me.
It's because you're used to it.
It's crazy
I don't think I'm
to
brave at all. I think I'm actually kind of a baby. I think I'm like a big baby pussy. But like,
no, you're not.
I don't. People sometimes will ask me in my content like, "Where do you get your confidence?" And it's like I don't have confidence. I just don't have a choice. Like I don't have the choice to be scared. Like if I'm scared, it doesn't get done.
Yeah.
So like I have to put that. I have to take that off the table.
You have to be brave.
Because if I'm not brave, nothing gets done.
Yeah.
Period.
It's like that's kind of like that.
Well, we're gonna pivot to our advice segment before we wrap up. But
yes.
Okay, so thank you guys so much for submitting your questions. They were so wonderful, and we have a few questions very specific to Kristin. Again, all of the Kitchen and Jordan audience, thank you guys so much for submitting your wonderful questions. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Feel free to submit more, tinyurl.com/nightschooladvice. We will answer them weekly on the pod. Okay, so my girlfriend is trans, and I'm trying to help her affirm her gender through her style. It's an issue that seems to be recurrent, that she feels she doesn't belong in certain clothes or shoes as they aren't catered to her body type or shoe size. I want to help her through this, but I'm not sure if I'm being effective. Any tips?
This is like one of the major third rails of being in a relationship with someone who's transitioning. This is like such a huge conflict point because like what comes up is that person is trying to figure out their style.
Right.
But like all of like we were raised as women. And so we were able to figure out who we were at like a socially acceptable time when we were like teenagers. Totally. You know, early 20s.
Right.
And experimenting.
Yes. And older trans women, people who don't transition to their 20s or beyond, don't have that same opportunity. And so they kind of have to like do a speed run through that awkward phase. Yeah. And it's horrible for them.
Oh my God. It's like a speed run through middle school.
Yes.
In your 30s.
Yes.
Jesus Christ. That's so tough.
It is the worst for them. And it is so painful and so hard and so traumatic and so like disappointing and like frustrating because like you're not where you want to be yet, but like it's
all those body stuff coming up too.
Except that like it's worse because like your body doesn't look right yet, and like you're just thinking about like, am I ever gonna look right? Like, why no, just go back in the closet? And it's like, don't go back in the closet. No. Like, just your life is always gonna be better out of the closet than it ever was in the closet. Like, it doesn't matter how much amenities you have in that closet. Like, it doesn't,
doesn't matter if the closet has a bidet. Just get out of the closet.
You gotta get out of the closet. There are bidets outside the closet too. Yeah. So I would say, okay, practical advice: A-line skirts. A-line skirts.
Good advice.
Great advice.
A-line skirts, stretchy tops. Don't do a lot of like big structured tops because you don't have boobs yet. Try not to do a lot of straight cut stuff because like I'm guessing they're not on hormones for long and they haven't had surgery yet. But like A-line skirts will give you like the illusion of hips. Mm-hmm. And stretchy tops like are forgiving for like while like you get boobs. So like that's my practical advice. My soft advice is that if they feel good in an outfit, your opinion on that outfit does not matter. And you need to put it out of your brain. Mm-hmm. Because like you've got to be a safe place for outfits. You've got to be a place where like if they feel good at a top or whatever, that like you aren't going to be like, because like a big mistake I made really early on is I am a person who has like a very defined personal style and like a very like keen sense of style. And so like when I see an outfit that doesn't work, my brain goes like, and like it was really tough in the beginning for me to not say anything when I was just like, I think this outfit will be better if you try this. And I had to just like shut the fuck up because it wasn't really about me. So, like, that's kind of the main thing is you kind of just have to learn that, like, you got the privilege of discovering yourself at a socially acceptable time, and this person you're with did not. Mm-hmm. And you got to be fucking chill about it.
Yeah. I mean, also, too, what a testament to your own self-awareness, though, that you can be aware of the fact that, like, as much as you want to help, you are hurting.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
My family found out that my grandfather was disconnected from his Indigenous roots due to assimilation and his parents not talking about their background. I am working to connecting with my, you want to pronounce that one for me?
Haudenosaunee. If you say the word Iroquois, what you really mean is Haudenosaunee.
Ironically, our family has been living in the land of our ancestors and are from the same tribe, but were unaware of our background, but only had a suspicion. Kristin's story is extremely inspiring to me, and it's like looking in the mirror when I hear her story. Mm-hmm. Do you have any advice for an anxious person trying to connect with their Indigenous background? I am very well connected with the people of the tribe.
Okay, so that question actually already has the answer in the question. If you're already connected with the people of the tribe, you're connected. Like that's reconnecting is connecting with the people. Like that's most of it. But like I'm gonna pretend like this person because I think like what they're really asking is that they kind of feel uncomfortable like taking part in stuff. I think, and a lot of that is like showing up. Like a lot of anything in life is showing up, but like reconnecting is showing up. You got to show up to powwows. You got to show up to community events. You got to show up.
For those of you who don't know, what is a powwow?
Okay, so a powwow is not a meeting that your dumb manager calls in the middle of lunch, okay? It's not that. A powwow is like, oh my God. A powwow is it's an intertribal gathering centered around dance and food and to a lesser extent like kind of crafty booths and stuff like that. Like usually there's two parts of a powwow. There is the arena where people dance in a circle. It's counterclockwise if you're Haudenosaunee, clockwise if you're not, or it's the other way around, I forget. I know that we just dance in a different direction than everyone else, but powwows are just kind of like to like see your family, see your community. Like people have their dance competitions. There are guest drums, which is like drum groups. It's like so people will have like they'll sit around a huge drum and hit it and sing. It's just a kind of a way to like experience and also get to be enmeshed in your culture. And you know, different communities have different powwows. Like, obviously, there are powwows everywhere, but, like, your home powwow will probably have, like, the stuff specific to your community. Like, when I went to, like, Seneca powwow this summer, it was, like, all smoke dancing, which is Haudenosaunee. And they had, like, strawberry drink, which is, like, very Eastern Woodlands powwow beverages. But so, like, you know, you just have to show up to things. Like, and there's more than just powwows. Like, you know, there are community things. Like, in our community, like, there's like, this event called Remember the Removal, which, like... in the 60s, the descendants of... I'm descended from a Seneca chief, corn planter, who his descendants were given a tract of land in northern Pennsylvania that the government stole in the 60s to flood and turn into a dam. And so every year the
Can't
Seneca...
say I'm surprised. But...
Yeah, so like the Seneca go...
Cancel America. I just can't.
I'm canceling my America subscription.
Yeah.
America Plus.
Yeah.
Canceled.
I'm so done with us.
Yeah, so like there's like this event where like it's called Remember the Removal, where they remember like the removal of all the people from that. So like they're if you talk to people and like ask to serve and be like volunteer to do stuff and like help clean up or like help someone with something or like, you know, people will accept you into the community if you show you want to help the community.
Totally.
So like that's so much. And I wish I didn't live so far away because it would be easier for me to do this if I lived closer. But like if you live there and you know those people already, that's like 80%. You're basically there.
Yeah.
Like you just gotta show up.
People love when people show up.
Yeah.
They really do. It just shows that, you know, you have that urge and that need. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Desire.
Show up, be humble, be kind. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, we're going to
Great
end on
advice.
one fun one because I have to ask this before
All
we
right.
wrap it up.
Yeah.
And then I want you to plug your dates too at the
Oh,
end.
yes.
What is the worst food you've tried at Trader Joe's?
That's a really good question. The worst food I've ever tried at Trader Joe's. I would say all of their frozen vegan bowls are vile. All of their frozen vegan, it's just like just a mush bucket. Like it's just like, it's like slop it up, you little piggy. It's terrible. I don't know what happens. I don't know if they put it through like a special disgusting machine.
They just fucking hate vegans. That's what it is.
I don't know. I don't know what it is, but like yeah, it's all of their vegan bowls basically.
That's so funny. A slush bucket. A slush bucket vegan bowl.
Can I quickly ask,
Yeah.
what is one of your recent favorites?
Oh, one of my recent
Or all-time favorites?
Your all-time favorites.
Holy
Okay.
Grail.
I would say the red pepper tomato soup and the Parmesan crisps.
Oh, the Parmesan crisps are a classic.
They are incredible. The brookies. I love the brookies.
Like brownie cookies?
Yeah, they're brown. The brookies are delicious.
Slap.
Jen loves the almond Danish.
never had
They make an almond Danish. It's delicious.
The croissant.
The frozen ones?
No, the breadcrumbs.
The croissant breadcrumbs are good.
What?
The pigs in a blanket are delicious. They also make, for my money, probably the best frozen gyoza.
Oh,
Yes,
yum.
I
yeah,
love
think I've had
gyoza.
those.
Yeah,
I lived off those in college.
Yes.
That was my and crock-pot bolognese was my my
Exactly.
staple.
Exactly.
All right, Kristin. Kristin is going on tour. Plug these dates, girl.
Yes, I'm going on stand-up tour. I'm going to be in New York on November 9th. I'm going to be in San Francisco on November 13th. I'm going to be in Chicago on November 19th. I'm going to be in Orlando December 3rd. And I'm going to be in Houston December 15th and San Diego January 26th. I cannot believe I remembered all those.
Let's fucking go.
Off the dome. Please come see me. It's my first headline. I'm co-headlining with Jen Sturger.
Our
It's
dear
like
friend.
yes, it's my first co-headlining tour.
Where can they get tickets?
Yes. Where can you get tickets? I have them all. The link in my Instagram bio.
Subscribe to her channel,
Yeah.
The Kitchen and Jordan Show
Yes.
on YouTube.
Yes. So like I have them in basically every if you can find me online, I probably have a link to my my tickets there.
You guys are smart.
Amazing.
You guys can figure it out.
Yeah, you guys are well,
Yeah.
Schoolies, thank you guys so much for joining. Kristen, thank you so much for joining.
Kristen.
This was such
Of
a pleasure.
course.
I adore you. I'm so
Our
happy you
first
came.
guest.
Our first guest. You were our first guest.
I'm the first guest?
You were our
Yes.
first guest.
What?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Schoolies, thank you guys so much for joining. Please like, comment, subscribe. Drop a question in our weekly advice box, tinyurl.com/nightsschooladvice. We love you so much, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.